Picture this. You're walking through a city thousands of years ago. The sun is blazing on golden walls, merchants are shouting in crowded markets, camels are hauling exotic goods, and everywhere you look, wealth. Silver coins clink in purses, spices and jewels sparkle, statues tower above busy streets. That city is Babylon, once considered the richest place on earth. Now here's the fun twist. Some of the most powerful money lessons you'll ever learn, lessons that can help you pay off debt, save for the future, and build lasting wealth, come not from modern finance books or TikTok gurus, but from parables told in this ancient city. And all those parables are collected in one slim little classic, The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. The first time I picked this book up, I'll admit, I expected it to be dusty, outdated, maybe even a little boring. I thought, how relevant can financial advice from nearly a century ago be? But then I started reading, and wow, it hooked me. It wasn't charts or equations. It was stories, fables almost, that explained money in ways so simple you can't forget them. And the best part? The lessons still apply today. Whether you're living paycheck to paycheck, trying to escape debt, or dreaming of financial independence, the principles from Babylon are as sharp in 2025 as they were in 1926 when the book first came out, and honestly, as true as they were thousands of years ago when the parables were set. Now let's talk about George S. Clason for a second. He wasn't a banker or a professor of economics. He was a soldier and businessman who, in the 1920s, came up with the idea of writing financial advice as pamphlets. But instead of saying, here's how interest rates work, he wrapped the lessons in engaging stories set in ancient Babylon. These pamphlets were so popular that banks handed them out for free to customers. Eventually, they were collected into this one book that became a global phenomenon. Pretty smart, right? Think about how brilliant that was. People hate being lectured about money, but tell them a story, a parable about a merchant, a shepherd, or a gold lender in Babylon. Suddenly they're leaning in, following along, and without realizing it, learning habits that will change their financial future. That's exactly why this book is still around almost 100 years later, because Clason cracked the code. Finance doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler it is, the more powerful. So what's inside? The book is structured as a series of parables, each with a nugget of financial wisdom. The main character is Arkad, the so-called richest man in Babylon. He wasn't born rich. He started out like everyone else, working hard but struggling. Over time, he learned the laws of money, applied them consistently, and became wealthy. When others asked him how, he shared his secrets. That's where the famous lessons like 7 Cures for a Lean Purse and the 5 Laws of Gold come from. I'll never forget the first time I hit that section on the cures. Arkad says, in essence, save at least 10% of everything you earn, don't spend more than you need, invest your savings so they multiply, and protect your money from risky schemes. On paper, those rules sound obvious, but the way Clason frames them, through the voices of Babylonians talking about gold, lean purses, and multiplying riches, makes them unforgettable. It reminded me of when I first started working. I thought, I'll save later, once I earn more. Spoiler alert, I didn't save. My purse was always lean. Reading Clason's Babylonian wisdom, I realized, no, saving isn't something you do later. You start now, even if it's small, because discipline matters more than the amount. That's the kind of wake-up call this book gives you. It doesn't drown you in theory, it slaps you with simple truths dressed up in timeless stories. And here's what we're going to do together in this series. I'll guide you through the book step by step, like we're walking through Babylon itself. We'll meet Arkad and hear his wisdom. We'll break down the 7 cures for a lean purse, explore the 5 laws of gold, and unpack other parables about debt, luck, and the importance of knowledge. Along the way, I'll share how these lessons hit me personally, And I'll ask you to reflect on your own habits too. Because this isn't just a history lesson, it's about you, your money, and your future. By the time we finish this deep dive, you won't just understand the richest man in Babylon, you'll have a financial blueprint you can start applying immediately. And trust me, once you hear these parables, they'll stick in your head forever. So buckle up, grab your imaginary sandals and coin purse, because we're heading to Babylon, the land of golden wisdom that can still make you richer today.
So now that we've set the scene in ancient Babylon, let's meet the man himself. Arkad, the richest man in the city. He's the central figure in George Clason's book, the wise teacher whose financial principles have echoed across centuries. But here's the thing. Arkad wasn't born wealthy. He wasn't some prince or heir to treasure. He started as an ordinary scribe, just another working man copying documents for pay. He labored hard, but like many of us today, he often found his purse frustratingly empty. No matter how much gold passed through his hands, it slipped away. And here's where his story becomes relatable. Haven't we all felt like Arkad at some point? You work, you earn, you hustle, and yet, at the end of the month, the purse feels lean. Paychecks vanish into bills, expenses, and little pleasures that don't last. Arkad realized something had to change. He looked around and noticed that some men no smarter or stronger than he, seemed to grow wealthier each year. What did they know that he didn't? That's when he made a decision that changed his life. He sought out knowledge. This is such a powerful lesson right off the bat. Arkad didn't complain. He didn't blame fate. He asked questions and sought wisdom. That's the turning point. He approached a wealthy moneylender named Algamish and offered to work for knowledge rather than gold. Arkad said, "Teach me the secrets of riches." And Algamish, seeing Arkad's sincerity, shared a truth so simple it almost sounded silly. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. At first, Arkad was puzzled. Of course, what I earn is mine, he thought. But Algamish shook his head. No. Most of what you earn goes to others, merchants, landlords, the baker, the tailor. Only the portion you save is truly yours. That line hit me like a hammer the first time I read it, because it's true. Think about it. Your paycheck doesn't belong to you if it vanishes into expenses. Only the part you keep, what you save and invest, is yours to build a future with. From this foundation, Arkad built his wealth. He disciplined himself to save at least 10% of everything he earned, no matter how small. And over time, his purse began to fatten. Now, as Arkad became rich, people naturally asked him, "How did you do it?" And that's when he laid out the famous 7 cures for a lean purse. These are the principles that turned him from a broke scribe to the wealthiest man in Babylon. Let's go through the first 3. Cure number 1. Start thy purse to fattening. This is the golden rule. Pay yourself first. Every time you earn, take at least 1 coin out of every 10 and set it aside. Do this before you pay anyone else, before rent, before food, before entertainment. It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. Most of us pay everyone else first, landlord, bills, subscriptions, and then hope there is something left to save. Spoiler alert, there usually isn't. Arkad flips the script. Save first, spend what's left. I remember when I first tried this. I set up an automatic transfer, 10% of my paycheck, straight into savings the moment I got paid. At first, it felt like I was losing money. But after a few months, I realized I hadn't even noticed the difference in my daily spending, and yet my purse was finally growing. That's Arkad's wisdom in action. Cure number 2. Control thy expenditures. Arkad's second cure is brutal honesty. Stop confusing wants with needs. In Babylon, as in our time, people complained that after paying for all necessities, nothing was left. Arkad challenged that thinking. He said most people mistake desires for necessities. The truth is, Most of us overspend on things we don't truly need, and that drains our purse. I had a humbling experience with this. I once tracked every single expense for a month. Coffee, snacks, online subscriptions, late-night takeout. When I added it all up, I was shocked at how much gold was slipping through tiny cracks. Those small daily habits were quietly robbing me of wealth. Arkad's advice: draw up a budget, live within it, and make sure that 10% savings rule is non-negotiable. This doesn't mean living miserably. It means spending wisely, choosing what truly brings value, and cutting the fluff. Cure number 3, make thy gold multiply. Saving is step 1, but hoarded coins don't grow. Arkad's third cure is investing. Put your money to work so it earns more money. He compares gold to workers. When you save a coin and invest it wisely, it becomes like a laborer who brings home more gold. And those new coins, they too can be put to work. That's how wealth multiplies. Today we'd call this compound interest or passive income. Arkad didn't have stocks or index funds, but the principle is the same. Don't let your savings sit idle. Make them productive. The first time I saw this in my own life was when I invested in a small mutual fund. I checked my account months later and noticed dividends, tiny amounts, but real money I hadn't lifted a finger for. That's Arkad's gold multiplying. Of course, he warns, be wise. Don't chase risky schemes. Only invest where your money is safe and returns are reliable. But once you do, your purse begins to fatten on its own. By the time Arkad explains these first 3 cures, save, control spending, and invest, you start to see the framework of wealth building. It's not magic, it's discipline. It's small, consistent actions that build momentum over time. And here's the beauty. These principles are as relevant now as they were in Babylon. Whether you're earning coins or swiping cards, the laws of money don't change. So let me throw this back to you. Imagine your purse right now. Is it lean or is it fattening? Are you paying yourself first? Are you in control of your spending or are desires running the show? Are your coins multiplying or are they just sitting idle? Because according to Arkad, these questions will determine whether you stay broke or become the richest man or woman in your own Babylon.
When we left off, Arkad had already given us the first 3 cures for a lean purse. Save 10% of your earnings, control your spending, and make your gold multiply. At this point, most listeners in Babylon were already nodding their heads. But Arkad wasn't done. He leaned forward, probably with a glint in his eye, and said, "If you truly wish to grow wealthy, you must go further still." And that's where the final 4 cures come in. Let's unpack them one by one. Cure number 4. Guard thy treasures from loss. This one stings because it's about avoiding bad investments. Arkad warns, don't let your gold slip away chasing promises of quick riches. In Babylon, this meant staying away from shady traders or gambling schemes. Today, it might mean avoiding that guaranteed 200% return someone pitches you at a party, or the too-good-to-be-true investment opportunity blasting across social media. I'll be honest, I learned this lesson the hard way. Years ago, I jumped into a can't-miss business pitch from a friend. I invested without fully understanding it. Guess what? I lost most of that money. Arkad would have shaken his head at me. Never invest in something you don't understand, and always seek the advice of wise, experienced people. This cure is about caution. It doesn't say never take risks. It says don't gamble blindly. Protect your principal. Make safe, steady gains instead of risking everything on wild bets. Cure number 5. Own thy home. In ancient Babylon, owning land and a home was a foundation of security. Arkad believed every man should own the roof over his head rather than paying rent forever. Translated to today, this advice has sparked debates. Some argue renting can be smart in certain cases. But Arkad's principle remains: build stability. Owning your home, or at least working toward building equity, creates security and reduces the risk of financial collapse. When I bought my first place, I realized it wasn't just about money. It was about peace of mind. No landlord, no sudden rent hikes, just a sense of ownership and stability. That's what Arkad meant. Wealth isn't just about fat purses, it's about security. Cure number 6. Ensure a future income. This is Arkad's version of retirement planning. He tells his listeners, don't just think of today, think of tomorrow. Think of the day when you're old, when your strength fades, when you can't work as you do now. Prepare for that day by securing future streams of income. In Babylon, this might mean setting aside herds or investing in enterprises that kept paying returns. Today, it might mean pensions, retirement accounts, dividend stocks, or rental properties. This cure is about building a future where you don't just scrape by, you live with dignity and peace. And I think this one hits even harder now. With so much uncertainty in the modern world, Arkad's advice feels like a personal reminder. Prepare for the future now so you don't panic later. Cure number 7. Increase thy ability to earn. This one might be my favorite. Arkad finishes the list by saying, never stop improving yourself. Your skills, knowledge, and discipline are your greatest assets. The more you learn, the more valuable you become. The more valuable you are, the more gold flows into your purse. I love this cure because it reminds me that personal growth is the ultimate investment. Every book I read, every skill I pick up, every experience I gain, those are seeds that pay off for life. Unlike material things, nobody can take knowledge from you. So Arkad's final cure isn't about money directly. It's about becoming the kind of person that attracts wealth, the kind of person who can always rebuild no matter what happens. Recap of the 7 cures. Let's pause for a moment. Here's Arkad's complete blueprint. Pay yourself first, save at least 10%, control your spending, make your gold multiply, protect your money from loss, own your home, plan for the future, invest in yourself. Simple? Yes. Easy? Not always. But timeless? Absolutely. And Arkad doesn't stop there. Once he lays down the cures, he takes it further, offering what he calls the 5 laws of gold. Think of them as proverbs, short, sharp rules that anyone can remember. Let's walk through them. Law number 1. Gold comes easily and in increasing quantity to the man who saves at least 1/10 of his earnings. We've heard this already, but Arkad doubles down. Consistent saving is the bedrock of wealth. Law number 2. Gold labors diligently and multiplies for the man who puts it to work. In other words, investing isn't optional. It's essential. Money must be productive. Law number 3. Gold clings to the protection of the cautious owner who invests under the advice of wise men. Seek wisdom. Don't gamble. Find mentors and proven paths. Law number 4. Gold slips away from the man who invests in businesses or purposes he is not familiar with. This one stings, doesn't it? If you don't understand it, don't do it. That's Arkad's rule. Law number 5. Gold flees from the man who forces it into impossible earnings, or follows the advice of tricksters, or trusts in his own inexperience. Chasing too good to be true opportunities? Arkad says your gold will run from you. Reflection on the laws. When I first read these, I laughed at how eerily relevant they still are. Clason wrote them almost a century ago, but they could have been written yesterday about crypto scams, pyramid schemes, or flashy stock tips. These laws don't just teach, they protect. They keep you from falling into traps and remind you that wealth isn't built on luck or shortcuts. It's built on discipline, patience, and wisdom.
Wrapping up part 3. So, by now, we've heard Arkad's complete toolkit, the 7 cures for a lean purse and the 5 laws of gold. Together, they form a blueprint that has stood for thousands of years. And here's the best part. You don't need to be a financial genius to apply them. You don't need luck, you just need discipline. The same discipline Arkad applied when he went from broke scribe to the richest man in Babylon. When I read these sections, I felt both challenged and relieved. Challenged because I realized how often I'd ignored these obvious truths. Relieved because wealth suddenly felt simple. Not easy, but simple.
By now, we've heard Arkad's blueprint, the 7 cures and the 5 laws of gold. But here's what makes The Richest Man in Babylon so much more than a list of financial tips: the parables. Clason could have written a boring pamphlet, save 10%, don't spend too much, avoid bad investments. Dry, right? Instead, he wrapped these lessons in stories about ordinary people in Babylon, men and women just like us, facing temptations, mistakes, and hard decisions. That's why the book sticks in your head. It's not just advice, it's story time with meaning. The Parable of the Man in Debt. One of my favorite stories is about a man buried under debt. He's exhausted, ashamed, and feels trapped. Sound familiar? Debt is as old as civilization itself. In Babylon, debt could ruin a man's reputation and enslave him. This man seeks help, and what's the advice? Stop running from it. Face it head on. Start repaying systematically, little by little. Don't promise what you can't deliver, just commit to paying something regularly. Over time, the chains of debt loosen. The first time I read that, I thought of my own first credit card bill. I remember staring at it, feeling crushed, and thinking I'll never catch up. But then I started small. One payment, then another. Slowly, the balance shrank. That's the Babylonian wisdom at work. Debt feels like a mountain, but chip away consistently, and eventually the mountain crumbles. The Tale of the Young Dreamer. Another parable follows a young man eager to get rich fast. He chases every shortcut, every promise of quick gold, every too-good-to-be-true scheme, and of course, he loses everything. Sound familiar in our world of meme stocks, crypto hype, and overnight success TikToks? The lesson is timeless. Shortcuts rarely lead to lasting wealth. Real prosperity comes from discipline and patience. I had a friend who invested in a guaranteed online trading system. He was convinced it was his ticket to riches. Within months, he lost most of his savings. When he later read The Richest Man in Babylon, he said, "If only I'd read Arkad first, I could have avoided that mistake." Arkad, the mentor. Now let's zoom in on Arkad himself. He's not flashy. He doesn't flaunt his wealth. Instead, he shares his wisdom generously, almost like a father guiding his children. What I love about Arkad is that he doesn't talk down to anyone. He doesn't say, "I'm smarter than you." He says, "I made mistakes, I learned, and here's what worked." That humility makes him relatable. He's not the unreachable billionaire. He's the older, wiser neighbor who figured things out and wants to spare you the pain. The everyman characters. The brilliance of the book is in the supporting characters. They're not just props, they're mirrors of us. The spendthrift who always complains his purse is empty. The dreamer who chases luck instead of discipline. The debtor weighed down by obligations. The cautious man who learns slowly but surely. When I read these stories, I kept thinking, "Oh, that's me," or "That's my friend," or "That's exactly what I did last year." These characters pull you into Babylon, but more importantly, they pull Babylon into your own life. Themes that echo. So what are the deeper themes that tie all these parables together? Let's break them down. 1. Wealth is built, not wished for. Clason hammers this again and again. Luck might give you a little boost, But lasting wealth comes from consistent, disciplined habits. No shortcuts. 2. Discipline beats income. It doesn't matter how much you earn if you don't control your spending. I've seen people with huge salaries stay broke because their lifestyle swallows every coin. Babylon reminds us, discipline, not income, creates wealth. Knowledge is the greatest treasure. Whether it's Arkad seeking wisdom from Algamish or the debtor learning to face his obligations, the message is clear. Financial knowledge is more valuable than gold itself. Gold without wisdom vanishes. Wisdom creates gold. Self-reliance. No one is coming to rescue you financially. Not fate, not luck, not even the government. Arkad's lesson is take responsibility for your purse. The sooner you own that, the sooner you grow rich. Service through stability. This one's subtle. The book suggests that when you master your money, you don't just help yourself, you help your family, your community, and future generations. A stable person becomes a pillar for others. Symbolism in Babylon. Babylon itself is a symbol. It represents the peak of wealth and wisdom in the ancient world. By setting the stories there, Clason was saying these lessons are as enduring as the city's walls. Gold, of course, is more than just currency. It symbolizes opportunity, security, and even freedom. The way you handle gold reflects how you handle your life. And the purse, whether lean or fat, is symbolic of our daily habits. A lean purse means careless habits. A fat purse means discipline. That's why the image sticks. The universal connection. When I first finished the parables, I had this weird realization. Nothing has really changed in thousands of years. Humans are still tempted by shortcuts. We still confuse wants for needs. We still fall into debt traps. And yet, the solutions are also unchanged. Save, spend wisely, invest cautiously, keep learning. There's comfort in that. It means you're not alone in your struggles, and it means the path forward has been tested by time. Why the stories stick? Here's a little secret about why these parables work so well. Stories slip past your defenses. If someone lectures you, save 10%, don't spend too much, avoid bad investments, you might roll your eyes. But tell me about Arkad, the broke scribe who became Babylon's richest man. Tell me about the young fool who lost everything chasing luck. Suddenly, I'm hooked. And without even realizing it, the lessons are embedding themselves in my brain. That's why The Richest Man in Babylon is more than a finance book. It's storytelling as education. And it's why nearly a century later, people are still reading it, quoting it, and applying it. Wrapping up Part 4. So in this part, we've stepped away from pure rules and looked at the stories that bring them to life. We've seen debtors, dreamers, and wise men. We've unpacked themes of discipline, self-reliance, and wisdom. And we've felt how Babylon itself, though ancient, is still speaking to us in our modern lives. For me, these parables changed the way I looked at money, not as numbers on a spreadsheet, but as a story I'm writing with my own habits. Am I the careless spender, the patient investor, or maybe one day the Arkad who can pass wisdom on? That's the challenge Clason leaves us with. Don't just learn the laws, live them, until your life becomes its own Babylonian parable.
So far, we've walked through Babylon's golden streets. We've met Arkad, learned the 7 cures, the 5 laws, and followed parables about debt, discipline, and dreams. But before we tie this journey together, let's take a step back and look at where this book really came from and why its wisdom has lasted nearly a century. The origins of the book. The Richest Man in Babylon was published in 1926. But here's the cool part. It didn't start as a book. George S. Clason was a businessman, not a professor or banker. He came up with the idea of writing short pamphlets of financial wisdom and distributing them through banks and insurance companies. Imagine this. You walk into your bank, and instead of a boring brochure about interest rates, they hand you a little story about a Babylonian merchant learning to save his gold. That's how it began. Marketing, but genius marketing. The pamphlets were so popular and so many people collected them that Clason gathered them into one volume. That book became The Richest Man in Babylon. And almost 100 years later, it's still in print, still on bestseller lists, still being recommended in business schools, personal finance blogs, and yes, even YouTube videos like this one. Why Babylon? Why did Clason choose Babylon? He could have said his parables in Rome, Greece, or even medieval Europe. But Babylon was famous for two things: its immense wealth and its reputation as a center of learning. It symbolized prosperity. The ancient city itself was legendary: high walls, hanging gardens, bustling trade routes. By using Babylon as the backdrop, Clason wasn't just telling financial lessons. He was saying these principles are as old and enduring as civilization itself. And that symbolism works. Babylon may have crumbled physically, but its wisdom, discipline, saving, investing, avoiding debt still stands tall. The timelessness of the lessons. When I read this book for the first time, I remember thinking, wait, nothing here is new. And that's the point. Nothing is new. We still fall into the same traps: spending too much, saving too little, chasing risky schemes, ignoring the future. Human nature hasn't changed in thousands of years. That's why Clason's stories still feel fresh. Because whether it's a Babylonian shepherd spending coins in the marketplace or us today swiping credit cards online, the habits are the same. And so are the solutions. The impact and legacy. The impact of The Richest Man in Babylon has been massive. It influenced later writers like Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and countless financial educators since. It's often handed out in financial literacy programs, recommended by business mentors, and quoted in motivational talks. Why? Because it strips finance down to the essentials. No fluff, no jargon, just universal truths told as stories. And honestly, isn't that what makes wisdom stick? We remember the tale of Arkad more than we remember a pie chart. We recall the debtor slowly paying off his obligations more than we recall a spreadsheet formula. Clason didn't just teach finance, he made it human. My personal reflection. For me, this book was a turning point. I had read plenty of modern finance advice, some complicated, some flashy, but Clason made me stop and think. Wealth isn't about chasing the next big thing. It's about discipline, patience, and living by timeless laws. When I applied the principles, paying myself first, controlling expenses, avoiding reckless investments, I started to feel a shift, not just in my bank account, but in my mindset. Money stopped feeling chaotic. It started to feel like something I could manage with calm, consistent actions. And that's the real magic of The Richest Man in Babylon. It doesn't just give you tactics, it gives you confidence. Audience engagement. Now I want to throw this over to you. Which of Babylon's lessons hit you the hardest? Was it the idea of paying yourself first? Was it guarding your money from loss? Was it Arkad's insistence on always improving yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your own Babylon moment, that financial lesson you've learned the hard way, or the habit you're trying to build now. I love reading your stories, and they inspire others who come across this video too. And if you're serious about diving deeper, go ahead and grab a copy of The Richest Man in Babylon. It's short, it's affordable, and I promise you, it's one of those books you'll return to again and again. Call to action. If this video lit a spark for you, Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more deep dive book breakdowns, and share this with someone who could use a little financial wisdom in their life. Because, let's be honest, we all know someone with a lean purse who could use some Babylonian cures. And hey, stick around. I've got more classics lined up: Napoleon Hill, Dale Carnegie, James Allen, and beyond. Together, we're building a library of timeless wisdom, one book at a time. Closing thought. Here's how I'd like to end this journey. Babylon may have fallen centuries ago. Its gardens are gone, its walls are dust, but the wisdom of its people, captured by George Clason, is still alive. It's alive in every person who decides to save a portion of their earnings, in every cautious investor, in every dreamer who chooses discipline over luck. The richest man in Babylon wasn't rich because of gold alone. He was rich because of wisdom. And wisdom, my friends, is a treasure available to all of us, if we choose to apply it. So remember this: start your purse to fattening, control your spending, make your gold multiply, guard it from loss, plan for the future, keep learning. These aren't just rules from an ancient city, they're the timeless map to building a life of freedom. Until next time, take these lessons with you, build your own Babylon. And who knows, maybe someday you'll be the Arkad in your circle, passing down your own story of how you grew rich in more ways than one.